Sarajevo, June 28, 1914. A Sunday morning in summer. The streets are lined with people who have come to see the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, make his ceremonial visit to the city. There are flags and music and the ordinary excitement of a royal occasion. Spread along the parade route are 7 young men. They are members of a secret network of Bosnian nationalists. Each carries a weapon, a pistol, a bomb, a capsule of cyanide to take afterward. They have agreed to die for their cause. The Archduke's motorcade will pass within feet of each of them. By 10 o'clock in the morning, the assassination attempt has already failed. One of the conspirators lost his nerve. Another threw his bomb, but it bounced off the car and exploded under the next vehicle in the motorcade. Franz Ferdinand was uninjured. The parade route was abandoned. The conspirators scattered, assuming the mission was over. Gavrilo Princip, 19 years old, 5 feet 2 inches tall, suffering from tuberculosis, walked to a nearby delicatessen to buy a sandwich. He had given up. Then Franz Ferdinand's driver made a wrong turn. What happened in the next 30 seconds would kill 20 million people and reshape the entire world. In the early summer of 1914, Europe had not experienced a major war between great powers for almost a century. The last time France and Prussia had fought was 1870. The last time Russia and a Western European power had fought was the Crimean War of the 1850s. A generation had grown up without the experience of large-scale industrial warfare. And yet, the continent was more dangerous than at any point in living memory. The industrialization of the previous 50 years had transformed armies. Artillery could now fire shells the size of a small car. Machine guns could kill hundreds of men in minutes. Railways could mobilize and move armies of millions in days. The military technology of 1914 was categorically more lethal than anything that had existed in 1814. But the tactical thinking of most European generals had not kept pace. They still believed in decisive offensive battles, in cavalry charges, in wars that would be over by Christmas. Underneath the surface stability, a series of interlocking tensions had been building for decades. Germany had unified in 1871 under Prussian leadership and had industrialized with extraordinary speed, becoming the dominant economic power on the European continent. This alarmed Britain, which had dominated European affairs through naval supremacy and whose own industrial edge was being eroded. It alarmed France, which had been humiliated in the Franco-Prussian War and had never accepted the loss of the provinces of Alsace and Lorraine. The European powers had responded to this instability by building alliance systems, networks of mutual defense treaties that were supposed to deter war by ensuring that attacking any one power would bring multiple great powers into the conflict. In practice, these alliance systems meant that a conflict involving any 2 major powers would almost automatically escalate to involve all of them. The powder keg was built. It needed only a spark. Bosnia-Herzegovina had been administered by the Austro-Hungarian Empire since 1878 and formally annexed in 1908. The annexation had outraged Serbia, which saw itself as the natural leader of South Slavic peoples and considered Bosnia part of its natural sphere. It had also outraged Russia, which backed Serbian interests in the Balkans and had its own territorial ambitions in the region. The Bosnian capital of Sarajevo in 1914 was a city of simmering tensions, a meeting point of Austro-Hungarian administration, Bosnian Muslim culture, Orthodox Christian Serbs, and Catholic Croats. Young nationalists of various backgrounds shared coffee shops and revolutionary ideas, dreaming of a South Slavic state free from Habsburg rule. The Black Hand, A Serbian secret society with connections to Serbian military intelligence had been funding and training young Bosnian revolutionaries. The organization's chief was a colonel named Dragutin Dimitrijević, known by his alias Apis, who combined genuine Serbian nationalism with a taste for violent conspiracy. The plot to kill Franz Ferdinand was organized through this network. 7 young men were chosen, given weapons and training, and sent to Sarajevo. The planning was, by professional standards, amateurish. The weapons were old. The men were barely trained. The coordination was loose. And yet, it nearly worked. And then, after failing, it worked anyway. The first conspirator to encounter the motorcade lost his nerve and did nothing. The second, Nedeljko Abrinović, threw his bomb at the Archduke's car. It bounced off the folded-back convertible roof and rolled under the following car, exploding and wounding several members of the party. The motorcade accelerated. Abrinović swallowed his cyanide capsule and jumped into the river. The cyanide was old and didn't work. The river was 4 inches deep. He was arrested, vomiting. Franz Ferdinand continued to the city hall, where he gave his scheduled speech, modifying it on the spot to address what had just happened with remarkable composure. He then insisted on going to the hospital to visit the people who had been wounded by the bomb. It was this decision, to visit the hospital, that created the fatal wrong turn. The motorcade left City Hall with a new route. They would take Franz Ferdinand to the hospital via a different road to avoid the area where the bomb had gone off. Someone forgot to tell the lead driver. The driver took the original route. When he was corrected by the governor of Bosnia, who was riding in the car, he stopped the vehicle to reverse, directly in front of a delicatessen on Franz Josef Street. Gavrilo Princip was standing on the pavement outside that delicatessen, approximately 5 feet from the Archduke's car. He had given up. He was buying a sandwich. He had no idea that the motorcade would change its route, and no idea that it would stop exactly where he happened to be standing. He raised his FN Model 1910 pistol and fired twice. The first bullet struck Franz Ferdinand's wife, Sophie, Duchess of Hohenberg, in the abdomen. The second struck Franz Ferdinand in the jugular vein. Sophie whispered to her husband, "For God's sake, what has happened to you?" Then she lost consciousness and fell. Franz Ferdinand, blood pouring from his neck, kept repeating, "Sofrel, Sofrel, don't die. Stay alive for our children." He lost consciousness minutes later. Both were dead within the hour. Princip was seized immediately. He was too young, at 19, to be executed under Austro-Hungarian law. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Tuberculosis killed him 4 years later, in 1918, just months before the war he started came to an end. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was not automatically a cause for world war. Assassinations happened. Archdukes died. The world did not typically end. What turned this particular assassination into the deadliest conflict in human history to that point was the alliance system, the military timetables, and the catastrophic failure of diplomatic leadership in the 37 days that followed. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia, with some justification, given the connections between the conspirators and Serbian intelligence. They sent Serbia an ultimatum containing 10 demands, deliberately designed to be unacceptable as a pretext for war. Serbia accepted 9 of the 10 demands, then offered to negotiate the 10th. Austria-Hungary declared war anyway. Russia, which had backed down from supporting Serbia in previous Balkan crises, decided it could not do so again without appearing weak. Tsar Nicholas II began mobilizing the Russian army. Germany, under Kaiser Wilhelm II, had given Austria-Hungary a blank check, unconditional support for whatever course of action it chose. Germany now felt bound by that commitment and was also alarmed by Russian mobilization on its eastern border. Germany had a military plan for fighting a two-front war, the Schlieffen Plan, which required attacking France quickly in the west before Russia could fully mobilize in the east. The plan required going through Belgium. France was allied with Russia. Britain had guaranteed Belgian neutrality. In 37 days, every major European power was at war. The men who might have stopped it, the emperors and kings who actually had the power to make these decisions, were overwhelmed, indecisive, and in several cases, genuinely terrified of what they had set in motion. Kaiser Wilhelm reportedly said, as the mobilization orders went out, "Gentlemen, you will regret this." He sent them anyway. World War I killed approximately 17 to 20 million people. Military and civilian deaths combined. It destroyed 4 empires. The Ottoman Empire, which had been declining for a century, was finally dismembered. The Austro-Hungarian Empire was dissolved entirely, replaced by a patchwork of new nations whose borders were drawn with limited regard for the ethnic and cultural realities on the ground. The Russian Empire collapsed in revolution in 1917. The chaos and suffering of the war, creating the Black Atlas, documentary script collection, page 30 conditions for the Bolshevik takeover, which created the Soviet Union. The German Empire was defeated, humiliated, and burdened with the Treaty of Versailles, which held Germany solely responsible for the war and demanded crushing reparations. The combination of economic devastation, national humiliation, and political instability created by the Versailles settlement created the conditions in which Adolf Hitler rose to power in 1933. World War II, which killed somewhere between 70 and 85 million people and included the Holocaust, is, in a direct and traceable sequence of cause and effect, a consequence of World War I. World War I is a consequence of the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand is a consequence of a driver taking a wrong turn. One wrong turn, 100 million dead across 2 world wars. History does not traffic in inevitability. It traffics in contingency, in the extraordinary, terrifying power of small moments to cascade into enormous consequences. A 19-year-old with tuberculosis and a pistol stood on a street corner eating a sandwich. A driver made a wrong turn. 20 million people died. History is not a story of inevitable forces and predetermined outcomes. It is a story of moments, small, contingent, accidental moments, that compound into catastrophes no one intended and no one could stop. The world we live in today was shaped by a wrong turn on a summer Sunday in 1914. Black Atlas. History leaves clues. We follow them.